The day my husband called me old, something inside me snapped. Not in anger, not in sadness, but in realization. I had spent over 2 decades of my life being a loyal, loving wife to a man who now saw me as nothing more than a relic of his past. We were at dinner, celebrating his new promotion, when he let the words slip so carelessly between sips of expensive wine. "You know, Claire, you're not the woman I married. You've aged. I need someone who makes me feel young again." The smirk on his face, the way he swirled his glass without a shred of remorse, I should have thrown my drink in his face. Instead, I sat there, frozen, as he leaned in closer and added, "I'm leaving. There's someone else. She's 29, and she makes me feel alive." And just like that, my 25-year marriage ended over a medium-rare steak and a bottle of Merlot. I didn't cry that night. I didn't beg or try to change his mind. I walked out of that restaurant with my head high, got into my car, and drove home to the house we once shared. A house that suddenly felt too big, too empty. I poured myself a drink, looked in the mirror, and saw the woman he had so easily discarded. Yes, there were fine lines around my eyes. Yes, my body had changed. But damn it, I wasn't dead. And if my husband wanted to chase his youth, then so would I. Enter Adrian. It started as a reckless idea, just to prove to myself that I still had it. I had never been the type to flirt with younger men, but that changed the night I walked into a sleek, dimly lit bar downtown. My dress hugged my curves in all the right places, my heels clicked against the polished floors, and I let my hair down for the first time in years. That's when I saw him. Adrian. Tall, dark, devastatingly handsome, and young. Maybe late 20s, early 30s. His eyes locked onto mine from across the room, and instead of looking through me like most men did at my age, he looked at me like I was the only woman there. I should have been nervous. I should have questioned why a man like him was drawn to me so instantly. But when he walked over and said, "A woman like you shouldn't be drinking alone," I felt something I hadn't in years. Desired. We talked for hours. He didn't ask me about my age, didn't seem to care. He laughed at my jokes, hung on to my words, and when his fingers grazed mine, a heat rushed through me that I thought had long since faded. That night, when he whispered in my ear, "Let's get out of here," I didn't hesitate. Adrian was everything my husband wasn't. He was attentive, passionate, and he made me feel like I was the most desirable woman in the world. It wasn't just sex, it was worship. He didn't just touch me, he devoured me, as if he had been starving his entire life, and I was the only thing that could satisfy him. And I let him. We spent nights tangled in silk sheets, days exploring the city hand in hand, and for the first time in years, I felt young again. I felt alive. My husband had thrown me away like I was past my prime, but Adrian treated me like a goddess. And the more I indulged, the more intoxicating it became. But deep down, I knew this wasn't just a fling. This was something dangerous. Because when a man like Adrian gets under your skin, he doesn't just take your body, he takes your soul. And I was willingly letting him have it. The first time I woke up in Adrian's bed, I expected regret to sink in. Instead, I felt reawakened. His strong arms were still wrapped around me, his breath warm against my skin. The sun streamed through the blinds, painting lazy patterns across his toned chest. I ran my fingers down his body, like memorizing every inch of the man who had just reminded me what it felt like to be wanted. He stirred, his lips curving into a smirk as he pulled me back under the sheets. "Not done with you yet, beautiful." I should have left. This was supposed to be a one-time thing, a rebellion against the invisible expiration date my ex-husband had stamped on me. But as Adrian's hands traveled over me, worshiping me like I was art, I realized something. I didn't want to leave. I started seeing Adrian every chance I got. It wasn't just lust, it was an addiction. The way he touched me, the way his lips traced over my body with reverence, it made me realize how starved I had been for real passion. And the best part? He didn't care about my age. He didn't compare me to younger women. He didn't treat me like I was something he was settling for. To Adrian, I was the most sensual, desirable woman he had ever laid eyes on, and that power was intoxicating. I started dressing differently, sleeker, bolder. My confidence soared. Men started noticing me again, their eyes lingering in ways they hadn't in years. Even women whispered about me as I walked by, wondering what had changed. If only they knew. One night, Adrian and I were out at an upscale lounge, sipping cocktails in a dimly lit VIP booth. His hand rested on my bare thigh, his fingers teasing the hem of my dress as he leaned in to whisper things in my ear that made my pulse race. I was so lost in him that I didn't notice the stunned face staring at me from across the room. My ex-husband. With her. The 29-year-old he had left me for. I watched his expression shift from shock to disbelief to jealousy. And God, I relished it. I tilted my head back and laughed at something Adrian said, loud enough for my ex to hear. Then, just as I felt his eyes burning into me, I turned to Adrian, placed a hand on his jaw, and kissed him. It wasn't just a kiss, it was a declaration. A message to my ex-husband that I wasn't some discarded aging woman left to wither away. I was a woman being worshipped. His girlfriend's face twisted in confusion. Who was I to be looking so damn radiant? My ex, on the other hand, looked like he wanted to rip Adrian apart. Too bad. He had made his choice. And so had I. But what I didn't realize in that moment was that my choice, my newfound intoxicating passion, was about to take me down a path I never saw coming. Because Adrian wasn't just some fleeting escape. He was about to become something more. The weeks that followed were a blur of passion, stolen moments, and indulgence. Adrian was a drug I couldn't quit, and I had no desire to. I was drowning in the kind of attention I had been starved of for years. He wasn't just making love to my body, he was setting fire to my soul. We were insatiable. Late-night rendezvous, spontaneous weekend getaways, and secret touches under restaurant tables. Every time he looked at me, I felt like a woman reborn. One evening, he took me to an intimate, hidden-away restaurant. The kind of place where the lighting was dim, the wine flowed endlessly, and you could get lost in each other without the world intruding. He sat across from me, his fingers grazing mine as we sipped our drinks. His gaze burned through me, promising things I knew he would deliver the moment we were alone. But then, a voice broke through the trance. "Claire? Is that you?" I turned to see a familiar face, Eva, an old acquaintance, someone I had met through charity events and social circles. She was elegant, poised, the kind of woman who always had a knowing glint in her eye. She smiled, but there was something off about it. Something forced. Her gaze flickered to Adrian, and in that instant, I saw it. Recognition. Something deeper than just a passing glance. Adrian's entire body tensed. It was subtle, but I felt it. I exchanged pleasantries with Eva, and she left soon after, but the mood had shifted. Adrian was quieter, his fingers tightening around his glass. That night, as I lay against his bare chest in his apartment, my phone vibrated with a message. "Eva, be careful with Adrian. He isn't what he seems. We had a thing once, and he left me heartbroken." A slow chill crept up my spine. My stomach twisted. I stared at the message, my mind racing. Adrian had a past. Of course he did. But the way Eva worded it, the implication that he used her, played her, and left her shattered, it nagged at me. I tried to ignore it, but it festered. Adrian noticed my silence. "Something's wrong," he murmured, his fingers tracing my bare shoulder. I hesitated, but then the words tumbled out. "I got a message from Eva." His expression darkened. "What did she say?" I read it out loud, watching for his reaction. He exhaled sharply, rubbing his jaw. "Why does my past matter, Claire? Do you want me to start asking about all the men before me?" I flinched. That's not the point. Is this a pattern with you? Sleeping with older women and tossing them aside? His gaze hardened. "Who I sleep with is my business." The words hit me like a slap. My chest tightened. I shouldn't have cared. He was just a fling, right? So why did it feel like my heart was being clawed open? I pushed off the bed, grabbing my dress. "I think we should stop this." His jaw clenched, but he simply nodded. "Whatever you want." I left. But the moment I was alone in my house, the emptiness returned. Adrian had filled a void I didn't even know was there, and now, without him, I felt like I was unraveling. Then a knock at my door. I froze. It was almost midnight. My heart pounded as I approached the door. "Claire, open up." Adrian's voice. I hesitated. "Go home, Adrian. I don't want this anymore." A beat of silence. Then, softer. "Please, let me explain." I opened the door just a crack, but the moment his eyes met mine, he stepped in, closing the space between us. "I told you, Claire. I don't do what Eva accused me of. She was married, grieving, and wanted to use me to get back at her husband. When she got too attached, I walked away. I never lied to her." I searched his face, trying to find any hint of deceit, but there was none. Then he whispered, "And I'm not walking away from you." Before I could respond, he lifted me effortlessly, now his lips crashing into mine as he carried me to the bedroom. My walls shattered, my hesitation burned away by the heat of his touch. I didn't just let him have me, I gave myself to him. Completely. And I knew deep down that this wasn't just a fling anymore. I woke up tangled in silk sheets, my body deliciously sore from the night before. Adrian was still asleep beside me, his arm draped over my waist like he never wanted to let go. A part of me wanted to stay like this forever, to drown in the fantasy of what we had become. But another part of me knew I was playing with fire, because this wasn't just lust anymore. This was something real, and real meant dangerous. I slowly slid out of bed, careful not to wake him, and wrapped myself in one of his shirts. The scent of him clung to the fabric, intoxicating, familiar, mine. I padded into the kitchen, needing space to think, but as I poured myself a cup of coffee, my phone buzzed on the counter, a name I hadn't seen in months. Mark, my ex-husband. I hesitated, then swiped to read the message. "We need to talk. It's important." I scoffed. Now? He wanted to talk? After throwing me away like yesterday's trash? After telling me I was too old? Adrian's voice broke through my thoughts. Who was that? I turned to see him leaning against the doorway, shirtless, his gaze sharp despite the sleep still in his eyes. "Mark," I admitted. "He says he wants to talk." Adrian's expression darkened, but he only nodded. "Are you going to?" I shrugged. I don't owe him anything. But something about the message unsettled me. Mark wasn't the kind of man to reach out unless there was a reason. I didn't have to wonder long. Later that evening, I was back at my house when another knock sounded at the door. My stomach clenched as I opened it. Mark stood there, looking different, not the smug, confident man who had left me for someone younger. He looked desperate. "What do you want, Mark?" I crossed my arms. He let out a heavy breath. "I made a mistake, Claire." I almost laughed. "Oh, really? Was it before or after you called me old and threw away our marriage for some 29-year-old? His jaw tensed. "She left me." A bitter smile tugged at my lips. Shocking. "I was an idiot," he admitted. "I was chasing something that wasn't real. I thought I needed to feel young again. But, Claire, I miss you. I miss us." Rage boiled inside me. He had reduced me to nothing when he walked away. He had made me question my worth. And now that his little fantasy had crumbled, he wanted me back. "Get out, Mark." His hand shot out, gripping my wrist. "Claire, just listen." A sudden movement. And then Mark was yanked back, slammed against the doorframe with a force that rattled the walls. "Adrian!" His fist connected with Mark's jaw so fast I barely registered it before my ex crumpled to the ground. "What the hell, man?" Mark groaned, clutching his face. Adrian stood over him, muscles tense, breathing hard. "You don't touch her." His voice was lethal. "You had your chance, and you threw it away." Mark glared at him. "Who the hell are you?" Adrian smirked. "The man who actually knows how to appreciate her." Mark stumbled to his feet, blood trickling from his lip. "This isn't over, Claire." "Yes, it is," I said coldly. "It was over the moment you left me." He stormed off, slamming the door behind him. I turned to Adrian, my heart still racing. "You didn't have to do that." He ran a hand through his hair. "Yes, I did." Something in his voice made my breath catch. I stepped closer, touching his face. "Are you jealous?" His grip on my waist tightened. "What if I am?" Heat flared between us, raw and unfiltered. And then his lips were on mine, his hands possessive, claiming me all over again. We didn't make it to the bedroom. He took me right there against the door, our bodies colliding, teeth clashing, hands desperate to tear away barriers between us. This wasn't just passion, it was ownership. I had been discarded by one man, but in Adrian's arms I felt wanted in a way I never had before, and I never wanted it to end. I woke up to the sound of my phone buzzing against the nightstand. The soft weight of Adrian's arm draped over my waist, his body curled around mine like he never wanted to let go. For a moment, I just lay there, savoring the feeling, the heat of him, the way his fingers unconsciously gripped my hip in his sleep. But the buzzing wouldn't stop. I sighed, carefully slipping out of Adrian's hold. I grabbed my phone and frowned. "Mark? Again?" I declined the call. Adrian's voice was rough with sleep. "Is it him?" I turned, finding him watching me, his dark eyes unreadable. "He keeps calling," I muttered. "I don't know what he wants, but I'm not interested." Adrian sat up, rubbing a hand over his jaw. Maybe you should see him. End it properly. I blinked. I did end it. His gaze held mine. Then why is he still in your head? A flicker of irritation sparked in me. He's not. Adrian just stared. He wasn't angry, but he wasn't backing down either. And damn it, I hated that he could read me so well. I exhaled. Fine, I'll talk to him. Mark insisted on meeting in person, so I agreed to meet him at a cafe near my house. Adrian didn't like it, but he didn't stop me either. When I walked in, Mark was already there, looking anxious. He stood as I approached. Claire? I sat across from him. What do you want, Mark? He sighed, running a hand through his hair. I messed up. I leaned back. That much is clear. I thought I needed something new, he admitted. I thought I needed someone younger to make me feel alive again. But you know what? She didn't love me. She didn't even want me. She wanted my money, my status. The moment things got hard, she was gone. I stared at him, unblinking. And? His voice softened. And I realized I had everything I needed with you. A humorless laugh escaped me. You don't get to do this. You don't get to break me down, leave me feeling worthless, and then come crawling back when your little fantasy blows up in your face. He reached for my hand, but I pulled away. Claire, I love you, he said desperately. I made a mistake, but I know now. You and I belong together. I shook my head, a strange sense of calm settling over me. No, Mark, you belong to your past, and I've already moved on. I stood, ready to leave. But as I turned, my breath caught. Adrian was there, standing by the entrance, watching us. Our eyes met, and I felt it. That pull, that heat, that knowing. Mark followed my gaze, his expression darkening. So he's the reason you won't take me back? I smirked. He's the reason I don't even have to think about it. And with that, I walked straight past my past and into my future. That night, Adrian didn't let me leave his side. We barely made it through the door before he had me pinned against it, his lips on mine, his hands claiming me with a desperation that left me breathless. You're mine, he murmured against my skin. Tell me you're mine. I gasped as he lifted me effortlessly, carrying me to the bedroom. I'm yours, Adrian. His grip tightened. And I'm yours. And as we lost ourselves in each other, I realized something. This wasn't just a fling. This wasn't just revenge. This was love. Raw, passionate, and completely undeniably ours.